All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we highlight a guy that I'd love to see the Niners grab in the first round at number 11, Jalon Walker from the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll talk a little bit about him coming up next. First, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. Tell them the Krueg sent you. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. Call my friend Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. And we also want to tell you about a special coming up Wednesday, next Wednesday, the 24th of March, and next Friday, the 26th of March. Everybody who shows up at Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles gets a free pack of cards, as this is all in the loving memory of Anthony Jr., who passed, who was Anthony Catania's motivation for opening Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles for his child who passed years ago. And his birthday is the 24th, and the day that he passed is the 26th. And so on those 2 days, if you go to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles at 205 Cypress Avenue, every kid who does automatically gets a free pack of baseball cards to honor Anthony Jr. So thanks to Anthony Catania for sponsoring the Krug Show. All right, let's talk a little bit about Jalon Walker. I think one of my favorite players in this draft to watch is Jalon Walker, and I do understand the conflict that he presents because he's a tweener. He's a guy who is so athletic and so talented that they've used him as a pass rusher because he's that physically dominant and he can beat the guy in front of him no matter what. And so you want to put that guy as off the edge and let him affect the quarterback as much as possible. That helps you win games. And so that's what Kirby Smart did. He used this kid as a defensive end, despite the fact he's 6'1", he's 243 pounds. He's not a defensive end at the pro level. He is a inside linebacker, and some people don't love his inside linebacker instincts. And I understand that because he hasn't played a lot of inside linebacker. He's 6'1", 243, 10.25-inch hands. He won the Butkus Award this year as the best linebacker in the nation. So isn't it funny that some people don't like his linebacker instincts, and yet he won the Butkus Award for being the best linebacker in the country. He's versatile, he's athletic, and probably most importantly, he's productive. But to me, I just love this player. Why? Because when you have all the mental gifts and all the physical gifts, it's time to turn off the projector and go on to the next prospect. And that's what this kid has. He has it all. He is the son of a football coach. His dad, Curtis, was an All-American linebacker at Division II Catawba. His brother plays cornerback at Georgia State. And so he comes from a football family. And you can tell when he starts talking football, this is a son of a coach. You know, football is the family business. He's very, very bright. He knows the sport like the back of his hand. He's like a coach on the field. He was the Dogs team captain. But being the son of a football coach really explains a lot about Jalon Walker. So he's got unbelievable athletic gifts, even though he's built much more like a stack backer than a defensive end. And they played him a lot of defensive end. But he also has a lot of the mental gifts because his dad was a football coach, and he has become the captain of the Dogs defense. He's a kid from Salisbury, North Carolina. In 2023, he led Georgia in sacks with 5. This last year, he led Georgia again with sacks with 6.5. He led them in tackles for loss with 10.5. He was second team All-SEC, third team All-American, according to the AP, and the Butkus Award winner. This guy also plays special teams. He's on the punt coverage unit. Yeah, he is a little bit of a tweener, but he's got elite pass rush traits. He's a fluid athlete. He's physical and he's tough. And his leadership is really famous at Georgia in that program. He's a leader. He's a guy who gets other guys lined up in the right spot. The closing burst is really his defining trait. You know, when you watch the Niners at the end of the year, the one thing you saw is they were slow. They were really, really slow. They didn't have that closing burst on their defense. This guy would give them that closing burst. He could replace Dre Greenlaw on first and second down. And if you wanted to, you could use him off the edge as a rusher on third downs and let him hunt the quarterback. He's tough. He's the closing burst, as I said, is his defining trait. He can really close. 5-star high school recruit, played as a freshman on Georgia's national championship team. He went, when they went up against Texas earlier this year, the Georgia coaches asked him, "Hey man, where would you like to line up?" Because you can line this guy up all over the place. He's kind of like a Micah Parsons. He kind of compares his game to Micah Parsons. And he said, "Hey man, I want Kelvin Banks. Put me up against the All-American left tackle for the Texas Longhorns, Kelvin Banks." And what did Jalon Walker do to Banks? Well, he sacked Quinn Ewers 3 times. So he's got an electric first step. He's got rare bend, rare flexibility. He's been compared to Nolan Smith quite a bit. I compare him a lot to Micah Parsons. He's scheme versatile. He's very, very fast. We're talking about 4.5 speed, 94th percentile as far as speed. The motor runs really, really hot. He's raw in pass coverage for sure. He's definitely a much better player going forward than going backwards. He had a shoulder injury in 2023 that has to be investigated. But we're talking about a Pro Bowl linebacker. And Matt Mayoko in his mock draft 4.0 had the Niners drafting Walker at number 11. And it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Now, I do want to share the screen here and kind of provide a differing point of view, because I think PFF does have a perspective on this player. And they did a video earlier about Jalon Walker, and they're not big fans. I mean, they're not as big of fans as I am. So here's PFF's breakdown of Jalon Walker. We'll talk about it here in a second.
Jalon Walker, I'm still nervous about him as a player. 30th right now on the big board. Now he has an average draft position 7 spots higher, so his average draft position is 23. That sort of speaks to, I think a lot of people outside of us are higher on Jalon Walker. And I really do. I like him as a player, top 30. I think if you wanted to take him back into the first round, early part of the second round, hearing how he talks about the game of football, how he evaluates his own game, how he evaluates the guys that he's going up against, having that coach's background to him. I love all of that stuff. It's hard for me to give him this oh yeah, let's put him in the top 20. Let's put him in the top 15. Some people talk about him in the top 10, like for the Carolina Panthers at number 8, because he's not built like an edge rusher at all whatsoever. Can be a very valuable player, but I just think about, I don't love the linebacker instincts that he showcased this past year. So I don't love sort of his feel for spacing and coverage, specifically if you got him in off-ball linebacker roles, and he's just not built like an edge rusher. So given a lot of the intangibles, how highly it sounds like a lot of the people at the Georgia program sort of speak of him, I would definitely take a chance on him. I think he's going to be a good football player, and I like him. Just, I'm not there with that top 20, top 15. So that's where I am with Jalon Walker.
Yeah, and I understand where he's coming from. I mean, basically, Walker's played defensive end, and linebacker is an instinctive position. So, he hasn't had the reps at linebacker that he's had at defensive end. And so he is a little raw. But I want to show you exactly what it is that I think this player brings to the table. I mean, he's a pass rusher, but he's a linebacker. He's not a defensive end. He's a linebacker. But he's smart. He's 20 years old. He's super athletic. Football's important to him. When you hear him interviewed, you can hear how important it is to him. But what he has are gifts that what he has cannot be taught. And I'm going to show you real quick here, just a quick, example of his burst that makes this kid really special. Okay, so here's Quinn Ewers. Maybe this is Arch, actually. This is Arch. Arch Manning at quarterback for Texas. And you have Jalon Walker there, not lined up on the line of scrimmage, lined up as kind of an off-the-ball linebacker. And he's spying the quarterback. Now, think about it. The Niners are going to win the Super Bowl. They got to beat Mahomes. They got to beat Lamar. In the division, they got to beat Kyler. You got to beat Stafford. You got to beat some quarterbacks. Some of these guys can really move. Niners have struggled against quarterbacks that can move. They haven't had this guy. Now watch him spy Manning, and as soon as Manning commits to running, watch how fast Walker closes the space. And if you watch this from far away, you can actually see it even a little bit better. So here it is. Here's Arch Manning taking the snap. And now he gets flushed, and as soon as he does, I mean, the closing speed of Walker, he can't even get 3 steps. Closing speed, look at the angle, takes a super aggressive angle and brings him down for about a 10-yard loss. So, I mean, this is a great play by Jalon Walker, and he can identify and diagnose what he sees. I agree with PFF's assessment that some of his run fits are not perfect, but it's because he doesn't play inside linebacker very much. You put this guy next to Fred Warner with Johnny Holland coaching, and this is going to be an all-pro linebacker. This guy's so fast, so athletic, so explosive. Football is so important to him. I mean, to hear, football is not the same importance to every player. Some guys, it's not even important at all. Some guys, it's rather important. Some guys, it's a big deal, but not a huge deal. This guy, it's everything. It's everything to this guy. And he's super athletic. So, yeah, I mean, there's some really good linebackers on day 3 of this draft, and they move like this guy does, but they're also 20 pounds lighter. This guy's 245, 250 and moving at this rate. To me, I think he's an upgrade on Roquan Smith and some of the other great Georgia backers we've seen in recent years. And they played him at defensive end just because he's super athletic. I mean, they would have played Roquan at defensive end if they felt like he could get the passer. This guy can play linebacker, but he can also play defensive end. But it's this closing speed that cannot be taught. You can't coach up that level of closing speed. And in this thing, he's just eyeballing and keying the quarterback. But this guy can do the same thing with the running back. I really think Jalon Walker is a difference maker. And to me, when you have a guy who, football's really important to him, he's got unbelievable physical traits. He's a leader. He's like a coach on the field. His dad was a coach. This is the guy you want. This guy's going to be a Pro Bowler. It's a Pro Bowl linebacker. And if you look at the way the NFL, the NFL's gone, what did the Eagles get this year? Zach Bond. What did they do? They won the Super Bowl because they had a Pro Bowl linebacker. Big time linebackers. You saw it with the Buccaneers a few years ago. They had old Tom Brady. They still found a way to win the Super Bowl. Why? Because they had Devin White, Levante David. They had this incredible, fast, awesome group of linebackers, and they totally dominated on that second level and just took away everything, and snuffed out the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Well, what did Philadelphia just do? I mean, Bond had a pick. They were all over Mahomes. He had nowhere to go. When he did run, they were tackling him. Their defensive line gets a lot of that credit, but those second level defenders were fast, and Bond had a pick, and they looked really good on that second level. So anyway, Jalon Walker, to me, he could replace Greenlaw. You need a really special player to replace Greenlaw. He is a really special player. And so there you go. That's a guy that I absolutely, if I were the 49ers, would draft at number 11. I wouldn't think twice about it. Really, really good football player who knows what he's doing on the field. All right, we are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners, Sports Cards, and Collectibles. Thanks to them. Thanks to you as well for supporting The Krueg Show on YouTube.